All right, hello and welcome to the San Jose State Weekly Football Press Conference. Today is game week, Monday, August 23rd. The Spartans will open up against Southern Utah this Saturday, August 28th, 7 o'clock from CEFCU Stadium. A pregame show will begin on KTRB, the Spartan flagship station, 8:60 a.m. at 6:30 Pacific time. CBS Sports Network will have the television coverage. And for tickets, 408-924-7589 or sjsuspartans.com. You can also get the information on the protocols for the upcoming game at CEFCU Stadium at sjsuspartans.com. Another reminder that the weekly Coach Brennan Show begins this week as well, live and in person, 5:30 at Rookie Sports Lodge in downtown San Jose. With that, we'll bring in San Jose State head coach Brent Brennan.
Well, hello, everybody. I wish you guys were all here with us. Hopefully we can get to some of that soon enough. Excited to be here and ready to take some questions about the 2021 Spartans.
All right, we're going to start. Steve Kroner, go ahead.
Brent, how you doing?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
Doing okay, thank you. You know, there's kind of an old cliche as opposed to a new cliche in sports that it's hard to get to the top of the mountain, but it's even harder to stay at the top of the mountain. One, do you believe that's true? And if it is, how do you use that in your coaching this season?
Well, I absolutely believe that's true. And I think the most important part that we understand as a coaching staff and a football team is that no one cares what you did yesterday. Last year was an amazing moment in time, and it's long gone. And every season's a new season. We have new players, we have new opponents. This season's much different than a year ago because you got a full schedule of games. And so, everything's different. So for us to expect anything just because we played well a year ago would be foolish. And we're not moving in that direction. So we've had a great couple weeks of preparation, and I'm excited to see our team play. I really am, Steve.
Great.
Next question. Do we have anybody in the comments that would like to ask the next question? I see Victor's online. Victor, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hey, Coach. Victor here, Aquino.
What's up, Vic?
Hey, so year 5, let's say compared to year 1, 2, 3, 4, and, the expectations were probably lower then. They gradually have gotten obviously higher with last year. And how does this year feel different going in that, you have a target on your back and whatnot? How would you kind of compare and contrast the start of year 5 for you in 2021?
Well, I think year 5, personally just feels different because we've been at it for a little while. The staff, the people that we're working with, our administration, our university, everybody knows each other really well, right? And so there's, a lot of really positive collaboration there and trying to continue to build a consistently winning football program here. So for me, that all feels better because I'm just more comfortable in the role. I'm more comfortable with the people. And the people are more comfortable with me. Maybe that's the harder part. I think for the team or for the program, we have a bunch of new people. Every team is a new team, and I think that gets lost sometimes because of some past success or past failure. Every team is a new football team. We added 27 new players. We had some players move on, and so. That's what we have to get figured out is how these new pieces fit our family, our culture, or, do they have potential to impact the game? Getting people, we started school this week. Or last week. So, we're in, really our first full week of academics. And so how are we getting people started off the right way with their academic process here? So there's a lot of moving pieces to it all right now, but I think because we are going into year 5. We do have a little bit of history together, and we have a little bit of a plan of how we want to operate in the academic world, and then also in the football world. It gives us a chance to hopefully get off, on the right foot.
Thank you.
All right, Aikman, you're up next. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Aikman Fang here from KSJS. What is the approach offensively with the departures of Bailey Gaither and Trey Walker? Is it simply the next man up? Since you still have Nick Starkel and Nick Nash as your quarterbacks?
Well, that's a good question. And that's something that we've been working hard at trying to figure out since those guys left to chase their dream, right? And so it will be a little bit by committee, I think, and looking for some people to establish themselves. That's one of those challenges when you have, a really good player or a couple really good players at a position where there was a consistent and basically an expected level of play that we got from Trey and Bailey. And so, for us, that's been, trying to find who's going to answer that call with the guys that are here, the people that we brought in. And I like where we're at. Like I said, the hard part is you don't really know until you play. So we'll find out on Saturday night what that looks like.
All right, up next we have Don. Go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Nice to see you again.
I'd like to say nice to see you, but I can't really see you right now. So.
How was training this preseason different than last year? Because I know last year you guys went to Humboldt, so you guys got close to that experience. So how was it different being back in San Jose again?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's not a whole lot to compare in those two preseasons. This year we started in August or in July. And last year we started in October. That was such a different circumstance. I will say that with Humboldt being the, kind of the common ground there, that was a great thing for us a year ago. And it was a great thing for us this year. And for us to be able to get away and have our team all together in both circumstances was really positive. The people at Humboldt State were incredible to us. We're really, really appreciative of their, of them willing to work with us, kind of welcoming us in. And even the experience at Humboldt was different, right? We were able to eat in the dining commons. it was just a much different environment because we were in a little bit different COVID climate. But, that time is important for us as a team. It's important for us to come together, to get to know each other. It was a chance for the new guys to, be living next door to an old guy. And, and then they can start to build that relationship. And, everything about our time there's a lot of football work to do. But the biggest part of that is us being together day in and day out. We walk to practice together. We walk to the dining commons together. We walk to meetings together. It's just really kind of building our brotherhood and trying to take advantage of that time where we are really kind of isolated.
All right, apologize if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, but Vitas, go ahead.
It's Vitas with the Bay Area News Group. Coach, with 23 returning starters, what was the competition like for, to try to prove yourself that you can earn playing time, with a veteran squad like you have? And are there any freshmen that have kind of stood out and made their case?
Well, that's a good question. I think if every day is not built on competition and challenging the guy above you, then we probably don't have the kind of football team or football program that we want to have. So everybody was competing. That's how it has to be for us to keep moving this thing forward. There's a handful of freshmen that I think you'll see play on Saturday night, and I'm excited to see what they can do. The speed of the game from high school to college is so extreme, how much it accelerates. And so, putting some of those guys out there, we're going to get a chance to see how ready they are, right? So far in practice, they've looked like they've done some nice things, but, really what is their potential impact, considering that they've never played in a college game? They really don't even know what it feels like. So, there'll be a couple guys that you'll see show up on Saturday night, and hopefully they prove that they belong. I think they will.
All right, Kevin, go ahead.
Coach, how are you? Hey, quick question on Nick Starkel, and I apologize. I can't remember. I think you were a 5-year guy at UCLA, as I was when I was in college. And the thing that jumped out at me looking at Nick going into a 6th season is, as a player, when you're in that 4th and 5th year, how confident you are and you understand the system and how to take care of yourself. How do you think that'll play out for Nick this year, being that it is his 6th season? And I know that he's made a couple of comments that he's really excited to play a full season. So for as much football as he's played, he's never really had a full season, including last year with an injury and a shortened season. So how do you think that plays out? To me, it seems like a huge advantage.
Well, I think anytime you have, upperclassmen that have played a lot of football, still in your program and still leading the way, it gives you a chance. And Nick's such a unique kid in that he loves the football part of it. He's great with our team. He understands what leadership should look like. He's really willing to assert himself in that role. And he can laugh at himself too, which I think is incredibly valuable, right? The media, whoever, everybody wants to put so much, shed such a light on him, but he knows none of it's possible unless Jack Snyder and Trevor Robbins and Kyle Hoppy and the guys up front are doing their work. And so he has a great understanding of how all the pieces on a football team fit together. And so I'm excited to see how he responds, as in terms of like him being in college for this long. I mean, if they would have let me stay, I would have gone for a couple more years myself. That was a pretty good life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty good life back then. But I'm excited to see Nick play like everybody else is, and his expectations are higher for himself than any of us can imagine. So, let's get playing and see what it looks like.
Yeah.
All right, over to Jackson Moore. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned the receivers likely be a committee type of deal, but you do have Terrence Lowville as your first teamer on the depth chart. You've got some new faces like Charles Ross and Trevon Sidney. Could you touch on some of these newer guys and maybe give a little bit of insight to them for fans that are just seeing these guys for the first time on Saturday?
Well, Jackson, the key is for Southern Utah to see them for the first time on Saturday also, right? And so, all those guys I think are going to play, and I think they all bring something to the table that's going to, help us figure out what we're going to be offensively. A year ago, you saw us make really good strides in the run game. I think that's an important part of us. We feel great about the tight end room, led by Derek Deese. And so, I think we have a lot of options for Nick to distribute the ball. That's kind of part of Coach McGivern's philosophy. I think you've seen that over the last couple of years, is a lot of distribution of the football to a lot of different receivers. And Nick's been good at that too. Naturally, Josh Love was good at that before Nick. And so as long as we have people on the field that can make plays with the ball in their hand, we're going to try and get it to them.
All right, Steve Kroner, go ahead.
Yeah, Brent, I know every coach says every game is the same and you go about it the same way, but your players are smart. They know there is a difference between playing Southern Utah and the University of Southern California back to back. As a coach, I mean, you probably recognize the disparity there, so to speak. How do you keep your players on a somewhat even keel between those two games?
Well, I think you have to respect every opponent. It's really that simple. And our players shouldn't, hopefully they have a long enough memory to remember when UC Davis came in here and beat us a couple years ago. So I don't think, y'all want to talk about the SC game, and their parents want to talk about the SC game, and their girlfriend wants to talk about the SC game, and the fans want to talk about the SC game. But none of it matters if we don't play good football against Southern Utah on Saturday night. And they're all well aware of that. And so when we say we're focused 1 week at a time, it really wouldn't matter who we're playing next week. Right, we have to win this game. We have to play well against Southern Utah in our stadium. To me, it's the biggest game we've had in Spartan Stadium in a long, long time. Certainly as long as I've been here, because we have a chance to play good football. We finally have fans back in the stadium. School's back in session. There's a lot of excitement for our young men and for their families to get a chance to watch them play. So how do we manage that? How do we manage, like, you haven't played in front of anybody since 2019? How do we handle the boos and the cheering and everything in between through the course of a game? And so that's what we got to help our guys realize, is that every team, every opponent absolutely deserves your respect. And we are respecting Southern Utah because they know exactly what they're doing. They're well coached and they've got good players. And so if we're not ready for this one, no one's going to care about next week.
All right, Victor, go ahead.
Yep. Besides the receiving group, Brent, what position group or what other players or whatnot might you be on the top of your head curious or excited about to see how they show up on Saturday?
Well, I'm excited to see, from the football part of it, I'm always excited to see the O and D line. That's where you win and lose games. I know that's not as sexy for the fan base or for the internet, but that's where you win games, is on your offensive line and your defensive line. And so I'm excited to see how those pieces come together. It'll be another year having some of those guys that joined us a year ago, and Jake Akiva and Noah Wright, kind of see how they show up. I'm really excited to see Kyle Harmon play and Hadari Darden, some of those guys that have played a lot of football here, Jay Leonard, that have, been through all the ups and downs, sacrificed a great deal, chose to come back, want to be a part of it. Like, I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Vitas, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how can Cade Hall, the preseason defensive player of the year in the West Division, elevate his game this year after a great campaign last year?
I think for Cade, it's just about taking it one day at a time. And that sounds cliche, but it's really that. I think anytime there's super high expectations for an individual or a team, the best chance you have to be at your best and hopefully get to some of those levels is to focus on what you're doing right now. And so today's a day off for us. So Cade should be going to class and getting treatment and maybe getting an extra lift in and hopefully, getting on Southern Utah film, either with his coach in a one-on-one or on his own, on his iPad or his computer. And really that's what it has to be. I think anytime, it doesn't matter what you're in, if we're so focused on something way down the road, we're going to get our asses kicked by what's happening right now. And we don't want to be in that space. We want to focus on today and focus on this moment and build those each day as we get closer and closer to kickoff.
Okay, Jackson Moore, go ahead.
Coach, Southern Utah played 6 games in the spring as recently as April. An unusual situation. Just how does that factor into your game prep? And if you're maybe anticipating a team that's not as rested or maybe more in sync than a team would be as a season opener?
Yeah, to me, I would say I would take that as an advantage for them because their spring practice was actually a season where they got to block and tackle and cover kicks and play against real people live all the time. And so, when you consider we had 15 days of spring practice and they had 3 months of games and all that stuff, I think that's an advantage for them because they've been practicing and playing, and it's not that far removed from last season where, last time we played was, almost 9 months ago.
Vitas, go ahead again.
Coach, I don't know exactly where you stand with this, but or where you are at the current situation, but with the NILs, being a new thing allowed here, and being the heart of Silicon Valley, how are you approaching that opportunity for your players, and what's the football program trying to do, or is it trying to use that to its advantage?
Well, I think, the onset of that was pretty late and close to the start of fall camp. Our athletics director, Jeff Konya, is doing a great job. We are working with Open Doors, and all of it for us starts with some education for our players and for all of our athletes, and trying to get them, to understand what it is so that they don't get themselves in a situation that is not advantageous for them or their family. And so trying to start with the educational piece to make sure they know what's available to them, what those options are. It is a brand new thing, and there's so many levels of it that are complicated in my own opinion. And I'm excited for them, for the athletes, because I think it's great that they have a chance to benefit at this stage in their careers from name, image, and likeness. And so how do we educate them? How do we teach them to build their brands? Then when it comes down to contracts and all that kind of stuff, how do we support them in that so that we give them a chance to do it the right way and not put themselves or their families at risk?
All right, final question comes from Steve Kroner. Go ahead.
Yeah, just kind of the generic question of, when you go into Saturday night, what are the 1 or 2 things about which you're the most confident in your team, and the 1 or 2 things about which you have the most questions or the most unsure about?
I'd say the thing that I'm most confident in our team is just in our leadership. When you consider on both sides of the ball, we have returners that have played a ton of football, been through all kinds of stuff here. Really seen the ups and downs, the good and the bad. And so you have that leadership that knows what it looks like and knows what it takes to play at a high level and knows the things that can hurt you. And then the thing I'm most concerned about are really is just, I think, how are we going to handle the crowd? How are we going to handle the parents being in town. How are we going to, those distractions that weren't distractions a year ago, right? Fans in the stands, students on campus, in-person class, family coming to town. Hey, day before the game, I need tickets. Well, you're not taking care of me. Like just all the stuff that comes out of that is potentially a distraction from what you're trying to do Saturday night. So those would be the two things that I feel good about our leadership on our football team on both sides of the ball. And then, I just, how do we handle getting back to normal college football?
All right, that's it. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Good seeing y'all. Hopefully see you in person next time.
All right. Once again, opener against Southern Utah Saturday, August 28th, 7 o'clock, KTRB 860 AM. We'll have the radio call and the pregame coverage at 6:30. Tickets at 408-924-7589, and all the information regarding protocols to enter SEFCU Stadium at sjsuspartans.com. Thanks, everybody, for participating, and we'll see you next week.